Hi, Gareth here from Recycle, and I want to give a little insight into the things that are selling in bike shops at the moment, the things that aren't, and why that might be. It's all doom and gloom at the moment in the cycling industry, and some of that is well founded. People are losing their jobs, companies are going into administration. There are some really dark times ahead, and there are particular areas that are struggling. And some that are actually still finding it reasonable growth. And that should, if we're sensible, help change the way bike shops operate going forward. Now, this may all be a bit pie in the sky. It may, my thoughts and words may be a bit optimistic, maybe, or overindulgent. And it may be that this just sort of peters along and nothing really changes. But I hope that things happen for good in the long run. Now I'm going to start with mountain bikes, because for many years, mountain bikes, be it hardtail or full suspension, have been the bread and butter of local bike shops, particularly hardtail, relatively cheap hardtail mountain bikes. That's the sort of thing that would just be regularly ticking through. Every kid wants one, adults want them. They're good quality, well priced. It's a no-brainer. It is one of the slowest selling items these days in a bike shop. Hardtails and full suspension mountain bikes, for that matter, are a rarity when it comes to the selling front. There's a few reasons for that, and they're all legitimate ones. They're all very good ones that I think as an industry we need to lean into and be a bit more aware of. With our planning, because it might help see problems in the future before time, so we can be prepared for them. The first place I'd look at is the lack of innovation, really. Mountain bikes have already been through a change in wheel size, a change in group sets, a change in brakes, a change in a really significant change in frame design. And that's fairly settled now. We don't have 26-inch wheels on mountain bikes anymore, very, very rarely. It's 27.5 or 29, it's all both if you've got a mullet. On the whole, full suspension bikes have all got one by group sets. You don't have a double chainring on the front of a full suspension mountain bike anymore. The geometry on full suspensions is fairly slack, and that's happened already. They've all got disc brakes, they've all got hydraulics. They all work really well on the whole. They've all got dropper posts. And so there's not much you can do to them. Now, if you also factor into that the fact that a lot of mountain bikers tweak and tinker with their bikes. And so it's a bit like Trigger's broom in the fact that from the original product that they brought, over the years, the seat post's been changed, the suspension's been changed, the tyres are changed weekly, the group set's been upgraded, the brakes have been changed to more powerful brakes. You've changed the bars to put on a Renthal bar, and you put a new stem on, and actually a new saddle, and everything's changed over time. So you've gone from having a bike that you bought 4 years ago that still feels like a new bike now, because it is a relatively new bike, because all the bits are being upgraded and tinkered with and changed. And those are relatively small cost changes to keep the bike feeling fresh and new to you. So there's no need to buy a new one. There's obviously New Bike Day. Everyone loves New Bike Day. I love New Bike Day. It's a great feeling. But there's less and less technological reasons to actually need New Bike Day. There are now still really good reasons to buy a new road bike. It may be that your road bike's still running 25mm tyres. It may be that you're still on rim brake, and disc brakes obviously much better. Please don't get offended, hill climbers. I know that's a difficult point there, thanks to Mr. Feather. It may be that you want a more aero frame, because the advances in those are significant. It may be that you want to upgrade to electronic shifting. And yes, it is an upgrade. I know there's people out there say our 10-speed Tiagra is absolutely fine, and it is fine. But shifting on the Tegra Di2 is insanely good. And why wouldn't you want it? So there are legitimate reasons still that I could say to someone confidently, yes, this new road bike is going to perform better than the road bike you've currently got. And that's actually harder for me to honestly say to people when we're talking about mountain bikes. The other thing is we don't tinker with road bikes as much. Roadies don't tend to change things around. The wheel size all stays the same. They'll put in a bigger tyre as you can get away with now, because that's the general consensus. You might want to go tubeless. You'll probably squeeze on a slightly bigger cassette than you should, because the fashion is to have a slightly bigger cassette now. But it's minor adjustments, and eventually you'll go to a different bike. So road bikes, because of that, are still selling pretty well, particularly the high-end ones. That's more down to the economy and the fact that people who can afford a £6,000 bike are probably less affected on their spending power than people who would be looking at a £1,000 bike. But there's nothing a bike shop can do about that aspect. But for mountain bikes, not only is there not much different, I mean, they are still nice, there's still some good stuff on them, but they might not be arguably that much different. You know, putting a little toolbox in the down tube isn't going to change how the bike rides that much. But that's what we're resorting to try and differentiate the product. If you add to that the second-hand market for mountain bikes is really strong. Now, it's strong because there's a lot of bikes out there. It's also a bit of a minefield, because if there's play in the linkage and stuff's been worn, then it could be a really costly mistake buying a second-hand bike. So I'm not saying that that's without problems, but there are a lot of bikes in the second-hand market. The place where mountain biking is growing, and this is rapid, is the electric bikes. Because now that if you're going to move from a new bike, you're on a decent mountain bike at the moment, what's your reason to buy a new one? The overriding reason to buy a new one is to get some electrical assistance. And we tipped over that curve well into COVID of it's a little bit niche, it's a bit odd, it's lazy. It's now obviously accepted for what it is, a brilliant way of enjoying riding. Different, ever so slightly different, I agree. But it is still fantastic. And it makes complete sense on mountain bikes, because on the draggy uphills that aren't as much fun anyway, you can talk to your mates because you've got a battery assisting you. You've still got the fun downhill. But that's not the argument. But that's why electric mountain biking is growing so much, because there's very little reason to buy a new non-electric bike, but changing to an electric bike is a great reason to buy a new bike. So that's growing. Another area that's growing is the commuter market, or the leisure user, because because they're seeing more of them on the road, and the more you see them, the more it's acceptable. The more you think, oh, maybe I should do that, or maybe I would do that. And without question, the overriding experience we have for our customers is that they use them more than they thought they would, and they enjoy them significantly more than they thought they would, because they are brilliant. E-bikes take away a lot of the excuses not to be out on a bike. Children's bikes have been quiet for the last few years, but this Christmas is without doubt going to be better. And I think a lot of that is because a lot of kids got bikes during COVID. They didn't need one the Christmas after that, or the Christmas after that, but this Christmas they've grown out of them. So the cycle starts again. Turbo trainers, couldn't get them for love and money in lockdown, and then everyone had too many. And now that's settled. And so turbo trainers for bike shops will probably sell a little bit more. Not loads, don't go crazy, but probably will sell a few more than you did the last couple of years. Gravel bikes, particularly up here in North Wales, gravel bikes are incredibly popular. We sell more Certainly in the aluminium market, far more gravel bikes than we do just standard endurance road bikes, because it gives you that extra option. The bigger tyres give you a little bit more comfort on the roads, and most people around here, most people on road bikes aren't looking to be as fast as possible. But it also gives you the opportunity to go and explore the fire roads and get away from the traffic and explore the paths less well travelled, which is great. Now, it could well be that 80% of our gravel bikes don't go anywhere near any gravel, but the option's there and the opportunity's there if you want to take it. So gravel is definitely a growing element for us. Away from just the bikes, it's steady away. There's not a hugely fluctuating market in any of these things. So tyres are tyres. You know, there's good points about some and there's bad points about some, but they're still just tyres, and they wear out and they get replaced. And you might replace them with a different brand and try something new, but it's still just a tyre sale. Bar tape needs replacing, bar grips need replacing. Clothes eke out. Now, clothes are the bane of most bike shops' lives because they're sort of a necessary evil, and no one likes stocking them. But if you get the right products, they do work and they are popular. There are some things in the clothing range that I think are a must-have for shops. It's a decent set of bib shorts and bib tights, a decent set of mountain bike shorts and waterproof trousers. And everything else is up to you. But there's nothing away from bikes as far as we see that is a particularly growing or weakening market. So that's the product and my opinion on how the industry is changing there, and demand is going to look like for the foreseeable future and those sort of things. But how can we as bike stores embrace this change and improve in a market that's difficult and very competitive at the moment? Well, servicing is without doubt something that needs to be at the forefront of stores, big or small. The workshop is the heartbeat of a shop, and as long as you've got a workshop that does a good quality job at a reasonable price, you've got something to keep the whole business ticking over. Going are the days where you could just go into a bike shop and traditionally it's just the most miserable person you've ever seen behind a counter. These need to be places where people enjoy working and want to be, and you as a customer want to enter and enjoy the experience, and you have in a workshop a place that you trust, you seek their opinion, which is valuable, and you can take advice. So stores, I have no doubt, need to invest in and develop their workshops and the offering there dramatically in some cases. And that workshop element and service element is going to be particularly true for smaller shops. Now, let's say it's a shop that has space to show 10 bikes on the shop floor. Well, if we take into account that full suspension mountain bikes are particularly hard to sell, and I'm using them as, I know some places that's all they do and they love it and they're brilliant at it and they're selling loads of them, but generally across the market, full suspension mountain bikes are pretty hard to sell. In tough times, is a shop that can only fit 10 bikes on the shop floor going to invest a tenth of its shop space on a bike that's hard to sell? Probably not, or it'd be unwise to do so. So they're not going to take that risky full sus bike. Let's say they do sell quite a few hybrids because they're in a town. That shop's just going to become more specialised in those types of bikes that they know they can confidently tick through. So you're going to find it harder and harder to find shops that have that riskier element. Oh, you don't see many of these anymore. That's going to become far more of the case. And you're going to have to, as a consumer, if you want to physically touch and see a bike, you're going to have to get used to driving further and further to actually see certain types of bikes. You know, the idea of asking your local shop to get one in just for you to have a look at, good luck, because they're not going to take that risk. And if that continues, then those sales of those riskier items that smaller shops might say, well, that's a nice little extra that we get every now and again, those are going to dwindle. They're going to get less and less. And we're going to go probably away from lots and lots of bike shops to sort of more showrooms, larger showrooms, sort of destination stores, sort of showcasing a number of different brands, and locally more sort of service-based areas that are looking after the local bike community, rather than necessarily being bike shops. But what else can bike shops and bike servicing places do and offer to encourage consumers in? Because the cycling fraternity is still there. Trail centres are still really busy. The road cycling groups are still out at the weekends. There are more people cycling now than there was pre-pandemic. So that growth is happening. They're just not necessarily spending their money on new bikes at the moment. Without doubt, the internet is here to stay. We all know that. And the fact that Wiggle, Chain Reaction have gone into administration doesn't mean they're going away. Someone will probably buy them and they will carry on. And if they don't buy them and they do go away, someone else will fill that void. You know, Wiggle were the Royal Mail's biggest customer at one point. They're huge. It's too big not to carry on like that. The internet, for a lot of stuff in the bike industry, works. So as a bricks and mortar store, we need to think about how we can live with that, not fight it, but what is it that we can offer? What is it that the humans in these buildings and the ability to touch and hold the items in here, what is it about that we can lean into that internet and websites can't offer? It might be that you've got a member of staff in your shop who's really interested in nutrition, or really interested in triathlons, or really interested in hill climbs, or gravel adventure rides into the middle of nowhere. That's information that other people will find valuable. There's loads of people here who have got gravel bikes but don't really know where to go on them. So it would make sense for me to share some gravel rides and do group gravel rides and share routes of those. Yes, that all takes time, but it's probably in the long run worth leaning into, because not every shop's going to be here in a year's time, and so it's the ones that put the effort in now to build up and get used to the new normal that are going to find it easier to survive. Now, what are other shops doing? What's your local shop doing that you think you think is a stroke of genius, every shop should be doing it? Or what are you not seeing in any shop and you think, why is no one doing this? I'd love to hear these comments. And also I'd like to know if this is a UK-based problem, dilemma, opportunity, or if this is happening in other parts of the world. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this useful. See you again soon.